Welcome back to Roxham TV. I'm your host, Jamie. We've got a big show today, and honestly, the stories today are wild. We are talking about a US soldier allegedly using classified military information to make money on Polymarket. We are also talking about the US Treasury quietly pushing a major liquidity wave into market. We'll also be talking about OpenAI facing a criminal investigation in Florida. We'll talk about marijuana finally being reclassified after decades. And then we're going to dive deep into AI image models, Tether freezing hundreds of millions of dollars, and Arbitrum freezing Ethereum from kelped out exploits. So today is not a normal news day whatsoever. First, we actually start with one of the craziest stories in prediction market. A US Army Special Forces sergeant has been arrested after allegedly using classified military information to make nearly 400K on Polymarket. He was reportedly involved in the operation to capture Maduro, and before that operation even happened, he allegedly placed the bet on Polymarket tied to U.S. action in Venezuela. So we're going to break down why this is not just gambling. This is insider trading with insider information or security information we're talking about. So it raises a huge question. If real world events can become markets, how do we stop insiders from betting on outcomes they already know? Then we move into a quiet but a very massive liquidity story. The US Treasury just executed a $15 billion debt buyback. So, on paper, that sounds very technical, but when you combine it with the Fed liquidity operations and Treasury cash flows, it becomes something much bigger. It means more liquidity is moving through the system. And this is happening not during a crisis. We are happening so-called this normal condition. And this tells us the market may now need constant support just to function smoothly. And that's exactly the kind of setup where Bitcoin becomes more interesting. After that, we go into AI. Florida has escalated its investigation into OpenAI from civil to criminal. The state is alleging that ChatGPT gave information to a suspect before the Florida State University shooting. OpenAI says the chatbot only gave factual information that was already exists publicly. So this case is so much bigger than just one company because now the legal system has to answer a very tough question. Is AI just a tool, or does the way AI gives information actually create a new kind of responsibility? This could become one of the most important AI legal cases we have seen so far. Then we shift into US policy. Marijuana has officially been reclassified from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 for approved medical use. That means the federal government is finally moving it away from the same category as heroin. This is a major change for research, for science, and cannabis business. But let's be clear, this is not a full legalization. It does not erase past conviction. It does not automatically help people already punished under the old system. So we'll break down why this is a step forward, but still incomplete. Then we get into one of the most exciting parts of today's show, the AI image war. So we are talking about OpenAI, Google, ByteDance are now competing at the top of AI image generation. So we're talking about GPT Image 2, Gemini 3.1 Flash Image, and also Seedream 5. And I'm going to walk through a demo style breakdown, like which one follows complex prompts the best, which one makes the most realistic product images, and which ones understand maybe different culture, Asian culture, and official style much better. Because the answer is not as simple as just one winner. Each model has its own strength, and the real winner might be the person who knows how to use all three of them. Then we move back into crypto. Tether just froze more than $344 million in USDT in coordination with US authorities. That tells us something very important. Stablecoins are fast and useful, but they are also very controllable. You can freeze USDT, but Of course, you cannot freeze Bitcoin. So we'll talk about the real difference between digital fiat and decentralized money. Because if someone can freeze your money, then the obvious question is the money even yours? And finally, we close with Arbitrum and the countdown exploit. Arbitrum Security Council froze more than 30,000 ETH tied to the hack. Now, on one hand, that may sound other hand, if you think about it, it raises a massive question about so-called DeFi, decentralized finance. If a council can just step in and freeze funds and move assets into a locked wallet, how decentralized it really is. So we'll get into the deeper issue. Is it user protection, or is it just traditional finance with new branding? So today's show matters because we are watching the rules getting rewritten in real time. So do stay with us because each story tells where market, tech, and crypto are heading next. So without further ado, let's get straight into the first story of today. And this is one of the craziest stories in the market right now because it sits right at the intersection of military operations, crypto betting, and also insider trading. And this time, it's not some hedge fund. It is actually a US soldier. So what just happened is there's a US Army Special Force sergeant. He has been arrested. According to the US Department of Justice, he used classified military information to place bets on Polymarket. And the number we're talking about is not small. He managed to turn about 33,000 into nearly 400K. So this is where it gets very serious. He was actually betting on whether the US would capture Maduro. And here's the key part. He wasn't just guessing. He was directly involved in that operation. The mission was called Operation Absolute Resolve, was already being planned and he knew it was going to happen. So while the public was uncertain, he was placing yes, the whole bet on Polymarket with insider knowledge. And let's break it down, like how it works. Because like on prediction markets, like Polymarket, you're not buying stocks, so you're actually betting on the outcome. So, question like, will the US take action or will a leader be removed? Each answer has its own price. If you're right, you simply win the prize, and if you're wrong, you lose the money. So if you already know the answer, it's basically a guaranteed profit. So according to the charges, he started placing bets in late December, then increased his bets right before the mission. So on 3rd of January, the operation happened. Maduro was captured, and the bet, of course, paid out on Polymarket, and that's when the red flags started showing up. This is not just a fraud case. This is insider trading we're talking about, but in a completely new form. So instead of trading stocks, he was trading real world events using classified information. That raises a big question. If people inside government or companies can bet on outcomes they control, how do they keep these markets even fair for us, for retail? And of course, we know prediction markets are growing really fast, like platforms like Polymarket and others are becoming very popular. So if we hop onto literally the main page of Polymarket, what you can see is that you can bet on politics, you can bet on sports, on crypto, on esports, around like war situation. But here's the problem. The closer the market gets to real world events, the more valuable insider information becomes. And this is not in isolation. Like there are already reports of politicians betting on their own campaigns, people trading based on private information. So the concern is definitely rising. Like, are these markets becoming a tool for insight or a tool for exploitation? And let's just call it what it is. Like if you are betting on an event that you are directly involved in, that's not that's not investing, that's not speculation, that's using privileged information for personal gain. And in this case, it involves national security. So the charges here, it is very serious. This soldier, he is facing fraud, theft of government information, and misuse of classified data. He could face up to 20 years in prison. So the government is taking this very, very seriously. But if we zoom out and actually look at Polymarket, like the real story here is bigger than just one person. We are entering a world where everything can be turned into a market. So just look at the sub headlines here, like literally everything. Like you can bet on war, you can bet on politics, global events. And when money is involved, people will try to get an edge. So the bottom line is like the US soldier used classified information to make nearly 400K on prediction markets. That is not just a scandal, that is a warning because as these platforms grow, the line between information and advantage is getting thinner. So if you ask me, if I look at Polymarket right now, is it a gambling side? Well, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And if we go to different price action, you can bet on, like you can bet on, this one is very interesting. So Bitcoin up or down, we're talking about the next 5 minutes. So keep changing what it looks like. Certainly looks like gambling in a casino, but like maybe I'm too old for that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If Polymarket is gambling site or so-called financial product, some future contracts. All right, so let's move on to the next huge move we have to cover today. So the US government just bought back $15 billion of its own debt. And on the surface, it sounds very technical, but when you actually zoom out, this is a liquidity story. So what just happened is the US Department of Treasury just executed one of the largest debt buybacks on record. So what does that mean? I'm glad you asked. Very simply, the government is buying back its own bonds from the market. Why do we do that? Which is to support market stability and manage liquidity. Now, here's the important part. This didn't just happen alone. In the same week, what we have seen is that the Federal Reserve added liquidity through its regular operations, and Treasury cash flows moved about $19 billion through the system. And on top of that, another $15 billion buyback. So when you combine everything, what you get is like a wave of liquidity hitting markets in a very short period of time. This is not small, this is very coordinated flow. In the past, you will only see moves like this during a crisis, so maybe some financial stress, market breakdown, or emergency response. But right now, this is happening during so-called a normal conditions, and that is a major shift. The baseline is like no longer neutral, it's managed. Like markets are no longer just supply and demand. They are increasingly being supported, adjusted, and stabilized by policy actions. Right now, it still doesn't change the fact though, because if we hop onto the real time, look at the real time number of the US national debt, it's around $39 trillion. And that number matters quite a lot. And if we hop onto the hop down to the chart right here, like that to GDP ratio, we are sitting at 137%. So that is a little bit concerning. Like because the more debt you have, the more the system depends on liquidity, refinancing, and intervention. And what if the unthinkable happen? Like what if the USD dominance is no longer guaranteed? Think about that. So if we connect the dots, if liquidity injections become normal, debt keeps expanding, and currencies face long-term pressure, then capital starts looking for alternatives, and that's exactly where Bitcoin enters the picture. Even BlackRock has positioned Bitcoin as a hedge against this exact setup. So monetary expansion, geopolitical risk, and currency debasement. So you don't need to understand every bond mechanism. You just need to understand this. Like there is more liquidity. That means there will be more dollars in the market, and over time, More dollars means lowering purchasing power. It doesn't happen overnight, of course. It happens very, very slowly. So you're slowly going to see higher prices, you see asset inflation and distorted markets. The system needs more and more liquidity just to keep running. So the bottom line is the US just executed a $15 billion debt buyback on top of a broader liquidity wave. This used to happen in crisis. Now it's happening in normal times. And that tells you something important. The system is becoming more dependent on liquidity. And that's exactly the environment where assets like Bitcoin start to matter more. All right, so we'll take a short break from here. When we come back, we are diving into AI. And right now, OpenAI is under some serious criminal investigation in Florida. So, question we have to ask here, how do we draw the line between AI advising maybe some criminal shooting, some criminal activities, to human advising some criminal activities? So, do stay with us after the break.
This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxum. One currency, one place.
Oh, I forgot to mention, dividends on Roxum are paid in Bitcoin. Stretch your income, 11.5% paid in Bitcoin.
Stretch your income to 11.5, get 11.5 in Bitcoin and Roxum. 11.5%. 11.5%.
Welcome back to Roxum TV, and thanks for sticking around with us after the break. We're now diving into interesting dynamics in AI. I want to ask you guys a question. If a human being told a killer exactly how to plan a massacre, we would charge them with murder. But what if that person is computer programmed? Because right now, the state of Florida is asking that exact question. The attorney general just moved an investigation into OpenAI from a civil lawsuit to a criminal prosecution. This isn't just a glitch. This isn't about copyright, but this is about a mass shooting at Florida State University. And the allegation is that ChatGPT provided guidance to a suspect before the April 2025 shooting at Florida State University. So according to the court documents, this suspect here was interacting with ChatGPT just minutes before the attack, and the questions was very specific. So he asked like what weapon to use, what ammunition, and what time of day has the most people. This is not just general research. This is targeted at real-time questioning. So the result of this horrible event that happened last year, 2025, 2 people were killed, 6 others were injured, and the suspect has pled not guilty. And based on this news, like OpenAI responded to this, like of course the company is pushing back. So how they view the situation is that they're saying ChatGPT did not create new instructions. It provided factual information that already exists publicly, the kind of information you could find on search engines, on websites, or even books in library. They also said they proactively shared the suspect's account with law enforcement after the incident. Because now, this is creating, this is a very complicated issue because we are in a new territory. So let's break down the core question here. If information already existed publicly, who is even responsible for how it is used? Like the real issues, like search engines, of course, show information. You could search about that on Google. Libraries, like if you look for books, of course, it contains information. But AI does something different. It helps you to organize it. It helps you to simplify and deliver in a way that is easy to understand, very conversational and step-by-step format. And in this case, the interaction happened right before a real world event. So even the Attorney General admits this, like that this is a uncharted territory because the law was not built for systems like this. So the question becomes, is AI just a tool, or does the way it delivers information create a new level of responsibility? So the bigger question we have to ask, like, this case is not just about one company, it's about something much bigger. Like, should the government decide what an AI is allowed to answer? If the answer is yes, then AI system may need to filter more aggressively. They might need to block some questions and limit access to certain information. However, if the answer is no, then AI remains open, but of course it carries risk in how it is being used. So let's be real here. Like, this is not a simple case of AI caused certain things to happen because the information already exists out there if you actually spend some time and looked into it. But at the same time, AI changes how the information is delivered. Right now we get information in a much faster manner, easier manner, and we can take action a lot faster. And that's where the debate is, because whatever the decision comes out of this, it will shape how AI companies build products, how government regulate AI, and how much access people might have for information. So let me know, guys, your take for this news. Like, do you think OpenAI is responsible for this horrible action, or you think that this is just how AI is heading to next? It just happened to be part of the trend. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit, and I do want to talk about a major policy shift in the United States. The US government just changed how it classifies cannabis, and this has been decades in the making. So what just happened is the federal government has officially reclassified FDA approved and state licensed medical marijuana. So it moves from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. So under the US Food and Drug Administration framework, now here's like what it means in simple terms. So before this, we have the same category as heroin for cannabis. I think that's very, very ridiculous. But right now, same category as drug like pain relief based medication. So of course, that is a big shift for marijuana. And here's why it matters. I know like Schedule 1 and Schedule 3, it sounds very confusing, but bear with me. Like drug scheduling determines how substances are regulated, how they are studied, and how they are treated legally. So Schedule 1 means much higher risk and not accepted as medical use whatsoever, while Schedule 3 means recognized medical use and much lower restrictions. So this is not just a label change. It changes how the system treats cannabis. And this is where the real change happens first, because For years, scientists actually faced heavy approval process, limited access to apply, and strict compliance rules. Even while many US states were already legalizing cannabis. And right now, research becomes easier. We have much faster approvals, more access, and less red tape. This is important because research drives everything. So, from medical understanding to public policy. So, this move opens the door for more serious scientific study. And this is where a lot of people get confused because, like, this is not a full legalization. It does not make cannabis legal nationwide. It does not change individual state laws. It does not automatically free people in prison. But what it does now, what it does, like the reality check here for today, like about half of US states allow the cannabis use, but federally speaking, is still controlled, and enforcement still exists depending on the situation. So you have this like very strange setup. So we look at the graph here, the green squares and also the gray squares. Like some state would think this is like a medical use, so it's legal in many states, but restricted at the federal level. So definitely the tension is still there. This move doesn't remove the legalization of marijuana whatsoever. So as for my own take, marijuana has classified alongside heroin since the 1970. That never makes sense to me, to be honest. So yes, this change is overdue, but it also incomplete. Right now, the biggest winner, if you ask me, is definitely the researchers at cannabis. So they're doing, or anyone who is in the cannabis business, they get better access, clearer rules, and less regulatory pressure. Last year alone, hundreds of thousands of Americans were still arrested for cannabis-related charges for something that is already legal in many parts of the country. So the system is still very inconsistent. If the government now recognizes medical use, the big question we have to ask next is, wait, where does it lead us? Like, is it full legislation, full legalization, policy reform, or criminal record changes? The bottom line is the US just moved cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. That is a major shift. It does, like, it makes research easier and helps the industry grow, but it does not really legalize cannabis and it does not fix past conviction. So this is a step forward, of course, but a bigger question is still open. Like, if the rules are changing, will the system catch up with reality? All right, so that was an interesting step forward by the US, but like I do want to shift gears to AI generation, AI image generator right now. So for years, we've been waiting for one model to truly kill the camera. Well, right now it's April 2026, and we don't have one winner. What we have is actually we have three-way war. If you are still using the same AI tool you used last year, you're probably behind. The landscape right now in today's world has shifted. What we have is OpenAI and Google and ByteDance fighting for your screen space. And they aren't just getting better, they are getting specialized. So the question everyone is asking is quite simple. It's like, who is actually the best? Just tell me like which model to use and then I'm going to use it, right, Jamie? So what just happened is that in April, so literally this month, three models are dominating the space. So we are talking about OpenAI. They have the ChatGPT Image 2. For Google, they have Gemini 3.1 Flash Image. From ByteDance, they have Seedream 5. So each one is strong, but each one is strong in their own way, in very different ways. So today I actually want to break it down and walk you through how to actually use them. So I do want to run some demo with you guys, and I want to simplify what I have witnessed using these demos. So From my own experience, I feel like ChatGPT, so GPT Image 2, is more logic and more precise when it comes to following the prompts. For Gemini, it is really fast. Like you can get the image in just a few seconds. And then for Seedream, I would say it's more cultural and it looked for the style definitely. It's going for more for the style. So here are the prompts that I use and generate different images using the same prompt. So ChatGPT, I would say, is extremely good at understanding prompt. Like you can type very long paragraph with multiple details and it will follow almost everything. So here's the example I want to give it to you guys. So like there are some prompt that I type actually is right here. So what I type here is a multi-poo dog holding the Bitcoin sign in front of the signature building of Hong Kong. So Bank of China, the building. What I'm looking for is a cyberpunk style, maybe in the future, very futuristic in 2050, cinematic lighting and ultra detail. So I use this same prompt. I copy and paste that on 3 different models. So here we have ChatGPT, and then we have Gemini, and then here we have Seedream. So this same prompt, what I got the results are, I would say quite different. And this exact same prompt, I would say ChatGPT definitely win. I will go with ChatGPT first. So what I type here is that I want a multi-poo. And to be fair, like all of the 3 models, I get the multi-poo. So I get the dog, which is great. They are following the prompt. And then the second description is that I want the dog to be holding the Bitcoin sign. And ChatGPT is following that exact prompt very, very well. And we have the Bank of China in Hong Kong right behind the dog. So it's I would say this is like 10 out of 10 if I were to rate this image. So ChatGPT definitely number 1. And then if we hop onto Gemini using the same prompt, like it still looks rather good. However, if we zoom closer, there happen to be like 5 legs of the dog, and that is just a little bit weird because like this is something that AI still struggle. Like it still doesn't understand physics as well. That well, and then sometimes you still end up getting maybe 6 fingers on a hand of a human hand, and here they have like 5 legs for a dog, and it's not really I would say, yeah, it was showing Hong Kong, the Bank of China in Hong Kong, but here we have some flying cars for some reason. But I mean, to be fair, I did ask for futuristic looking, so maybe that's what the AI imagined. But if we hop on to Seedream, this example, this demo, I would say is still very cute. Like we have the dog, we have the Bitcoin sign, but there's some like weird Chinese words. Like some of the words make sense, but they just kind of like combine that together. That's why it doesn't make sense. And I specifically asked for Bank of China, yet I don't get. And I did say I'm looking for cyberpunk, like more cyberpunk feel, and I don't think I get that as well. So I would say a little bit more like cultural, Asian style that they're going for because it does look like China in a way. However, it's not following the prompt that I gave exactly. So like just using this prompt alone, I would say like ChatGPT 1. Let me know if you agree with me. So this is just like one of the tests that I did on these 3 models, and I also tried the other one. So another prompt that we used here is like an Apple Vision Pro a box, studio lighting, and very realistic product shot. And the results I got, like this time, Gemini, I will say it won because like this is my Gemini, and so far it looks very realistic, most realistic out of the 3. And it looks like the official product photo. And I'll say is really good for commercial use. So Gemini, 10 out of 10. And then for this case, this is generated by ChatGPT. So GPT image 2, still very high end, like strong lighting and material, the strong lighting and the materials feel very futuristic. And Seedream, here is they're going for a more clean and elegant setup, and maybe it's good for branding visuals. So for the second prompt, the second test that I run, I would say the conclusion is like Gemini, definitely very realistic. They could just use it for maybe the official Apple advertisement. For ChatGPT, the premium feel is there. For Seedream, very plain and simple, a little bit artistic style. So that's the test number 2. And the third test that I did, so there was a third prompt. So this prompt is what I did here is Asian Chinese poem scene, moonlight and quiet night tradition quote. So this is the first result. I think it's 10 out of 10, but can you guess like which model that I used here? So this one is actually from Seedream. And the reason why I think this is 10 out of 10, because this is following the exact prompt I was asking. So I was asking for ancient Chinese poem scene, and it does look very, very Asian. It does look very, very Chinese. So it has the best understanding of the Chinese culture, and it does look very emotional. So 10 out of 10 for Seedream. And the second one, so this one was generated by GPT image 2. Of course, it's still very accurate scene. It's still trying to go for the Chinese culture. But however, I feel like this might be a screenshot that you get from modern days, I would say modern days drama, Chinese drama, instead of the Chinese culture, the poetic culture, if you guys get what I mean. So more realistic than artistic. And then the third image that I got, this is from Gemini. Like it's still good overall, but like there isn't much the cultural depth like it has when it comes to Seedream. So if you ask me, like the conclusion is maybe for local culture, more cultural style, then Seedream will definitely win, especially when it comes to Asian culture. And here's the part, like here's the key side. There is no single winner, and that's why I'm sharing these results to you guys. Like each model is solving different problem. For ChatGPT, maybe it understands your style. You could do you generate rather accurate image using just a few prompts. Gemini, definitely the advantage is that it executes really fast. It helps you to generate that image in just a few seconds. And then for Seedream, maybe it's going for more the cultural directions, and it definitely has a stronger understanding towards the Chinese culture. And this, what this changes is that like before you needed design skills, but right now using all these models, all these tools, you need what you need is thinking skills because AI does the drawing and you do the direction. So there are some fun use cases that we could think of, like for example, you could generate things like a classic painting but with modern tech. Maybe you could generate a full travel guide in just one image. Maybe some people will fake a product launch, even social media posts for public figures. Like this is not just tools anymore. Point being, this is content creation at scale. But here is also a constant reminder, like everything generated is fake. Of course, some of them, it looks really real, looks really good. And it's important to remember that because like this creates opportunities, but at the same time, it also creates more risk. So the bigger question we're trying to do here, like comparing all these three models, like people like to ask, which one is the best? Like honestly, I would say that's the wrong question to ask. The real answer is like the winner is the person who knows how to use all three of them. So you need to know like the characteristic of these three models, and you need to know your need, and then go to these model and adjust your prompt to get the best result. So the bottom line is like AI image generation is no longer just about one model, it's about combining the strengths. Maybe GPT is best for thinking, Gemini is best for speed, and Seedream is good for that artistic culture, cultural style. And this is a shift. Like AI did not replace creativity. What it changes, like what creativity means. Because now the question is not, can you draw? It is like, what do you want to create? And that is a critical thinking we need. And I really want the viewers of Roxham TV to think about. All right, so we'll take a short break from here. When we come back, we are shifting gears from AI to crypto. This time, Tether frees $344 million. So there's a strong debate between control versus freedom. So do stay with us after the break.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick, monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxham. One currency, one place.
How about Stretch preferred stock on Roxham? Receive 11.5% monthly cash dividends paid in Bitcoin.
11.5% paid in Bitcoin? How is that possible?
It's real. Stretch dividends on Roxham gives 11.5% monthly cash dividends paid in Bitcoin.
Dang! I want everyone pitching Roxham to your clients. Corporate traders, asset managers, old, young, Stretch on Roxham is for everyone.
Now that's a birthday gift. 11.5% in Bitcoin.
11.5. We are in heaven at 11.5. 11.5%. 11.5%.
Oh, I forgot to mention, dividends on Roxham are paid in Bitcoin. Stretch your income, 11.5% paid in Bitcoin.
Stretch your income to 11.5. Get 11.5 in Bitcoin and Roxham. 11.5%. 11.5%.
Welcome back to Roxham TV, and thanks for sticking around with us after the break. I do want to start here, and this is one of the stories that looks simple on the surface, but actually tells you a lot about where crypto is heading to. So, what just happened is that Tether just froze more than $344 million worth of USDT, and this was done in direct coordination with US authorities. So, according to the company, this action targeted 2 specific wallet addresses that had already been flagged by US agencies as being connected to illegal activity. And once those wallets were identified, Tether stepped in and stopped any further movement of funds. In other words, Tether said it supported the freeze of more than $344 million in USDT in coordination with OFAC, so OFAC, and US law enforcement. So this was not something that happened after the fact. It was coordinated in real time. And this is not a one-off situation either. This is actually how the system is designed to work. Tether said it now works with more than 340 law enforcement agencies across 65 different countries. And so far, it has helped freeze over $4.4 billion in assets. The process is quite simple. So authorities identify suspicious wallet, they flag them, and then Tether steps in and locks them before funds can move any further. This is not reactive, this is active enforcement. And how the CEO of Tether put it, like he made the position very clear. He said USDT is not a safe haven for illegal activity, and when there are credible links to sanctioned entities or criminal networks, the company would act immediately. So this capability is not a flaw; it is built into the system by design. Now, the reaction online tells you exactly why this matters, because people are saying things like USDT is basically a CBDC, like you cannot freeze Bitcoin, stablecoins, and you cannot freeze Bitcoin, and stablecoins are just centralized money, and some are even asking if crypto can become centralized. And honestly, there is some truth in that reaction. So let's separate this clearly. Of course, you cannot freeze Bitcoin. There is no central authority that can stop a transaction or block a wallet. But with stablecoins like USDT or control that would exist, we are seeing it happening in real time. So we are dealing with two completely different systems. So Bitcoin is very decentralized, of course, like it's decentralized money with no central control. Stablecoins are digital fiat issued by companies and backed by assets and in a very fully controlled manner. Now, here's the real conversation start. There's always a trade-off. So control has benefits because it allows enforcement, it helps stop illegal activity, and it makes it easier for government to work with the system. But at the same time, it introduces a very important risk because if control exists, it can always be used. So the question becomes very simple, like if someone can freeze your money, is it even your money? Because ownership is not just about holding something, it's about having full control over it. And this does matter, and it's not just about $344 million being frozen. This is about understanding the direction of the system. On one side, you have stablecoins that are fast, efficient, and integrated into financial system. On the other side, you have Bitcoin, which is slow, very slow, in my opinion, but gives you full control and independency. So the bottom line is, Tether freezing $344 million shows us exactly how stablecoins work. They are efficient, but they are very controlled. Bitcoin cannot be frozen, but it operates outside that system. So this is the trade-off. Like if you're opting for convenience and control on one side, and also freedom and sovereignty on the other side. And as crypto grows, this tension is only going to get bigger. So speaking of control, we also have another story in a very controlled manner. So I will start with this. Like this directly tied to the DAO hack we have been covering nonstop on Roxanne TV, and this new development raises a much bigger question about DeFi. Like what is decentralized finance actually is? So what happened is that the Arbitrum Security Council has frozen 30,000 Ethereum linked to the DAO exploit. And that's tens of millions of dollars worth of Ethereum, and has now been taken out of circulation from the attacker's control. The funds were moved into a locked intermediary wallet where they can no longer be accessed by the original address. So what Arbitrum said here, like in their own words, Arbitrum stated that Security Council took emergency action to freeze the funds and confirmed that the assets were successfully transferred to a frozen wallet. They also said the funds are no longer accessible to the original holder, and any future movement will require governance approval. So this was not just observation, this was direct action. And the move was coordinated with law enforcement. And according to Arbitrum themselves, it was executed without affecting other users or applications on the network. So from a technical standpoint, that was clean. But from a structural standpoint, this is something much bigger. So let's be clear about this. This was not a patch. There was no bug fix. This was intervention. So a small group identified a wallet. They decided to make a decision and froze that funds. That capability exists, and now we have seen it used. The reaction online was immediate. Like some people are saying it, maybe just call it drop the DeFi, like drop the decentralized nature, just say Fi, maybe not DeFi anymore. And others ask the obvious question: if a council can step in and freeze funds, how is this different from bank? And this is where the real conversation starts. So DeFi has always been marketed as trustless, as permissionless, and unstoppable. But what we are seeing here is something different. Like when everything is working, it looks decentralized, of course, but when something breaks, control shows up very quickly. And this is like, there's still a level of governance here. There's still a group of people who can make decisions, who can execute actions and control outcomes. So the system is definitely not decentralized. This is selectively controlled. Now, to be fair, like stopping a hacker sounds like a good thing. Like most people would agree with that, but that's not the real point here. The real point is that they can do it if they can do it at all. Like, because if a system can freeze funds for a good reason, it also means it has the ability to freeze funds for other reasons. So what we are looking at is not a completely new system. It's a familiar structure with new branding. Like there's still control, there's still authority. So it's not DeFi, it's not decentralized finance. It just operates differently from traditional finance. So this is where it matters. Like it's not just about one hack or one protocol. It affects how we understand DeFi as a whole, because the core promise was no central authority. But in practice, what we're seeing is very much control, conditional control. So the bottom line is like Arbitrum froze over 30,000 ETH tied to the CalDAO exploit. The funds are now being locked and can only be moved through governance decisions. The action was effective, but it also revealed something deeper. Like DeFi is not completely decentralized. It's controlled when it needs to be. And that raised the key questions going forward. Is this feature would protect users, or is it a reality that changes what DeFi really means? So chat, let me know your take on this news. Like, do you agree what Arbitrum did here, or you think that they should just like leave it to the decentralized nature? So I would love to see a discussion on the comment sections. So before you go, make sure to give us a follow on X. My personal Twitter is jamframecrypto_io. Make sure to follow Roxum TV as well, because we have regular updates coming out covering about global news, about AI, about Bitcoin. So point being, there's so much valuable content here you probably don't want to miss out. So do give us a follow, and it's very easy. Just at Roxum TV. So as always, I'm here live Monday through Friday, starting at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll start doing live at 3 a.m. Eastern 3 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you don't manage to catch my shows live, don't worry, the recorded version is also available on both channels, so being Jam Crypto YouTube channel and Roxum TV YouTube channel. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys next week.